Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Allure of the Poor, sponsored by Dracaena Wines. I am your host, Lori, a UC Davis winemaking graduate, champagne specialist, WSET level 2, Côte de Rhone specialist, and now a student in the Spanish Wine Scholar program. And today I have a very exciting guest that took us a while, a couple of back and forths to get there, but we both were tenacious and sticking it out, and we finally got together to talk. I have Brian Babcock of Sassoon Creek Winery, and we will be discussing the Valley, we'll be discussing Petite Syrah, and we will be discussing this 2018 specific Petite Syrah. So welcome, Brian. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me out.
Absolutely. And I am excited. One of these days I'm going to get there.
Right.
I don't know. You're not that far. You're not that far from me, but I don't know. It always just something always, every time I get a plan to get going up there, something jumps in the way and it never works out, but I'm going to do it. I promise.
All right. All right. I'll save you a seat.
All right. So my first question for everybody on Allure of the Poor is always the same, and it's the origin story, right? We always want to know how Wolverine got his claws, and how Deadpool became Deadpool. So how did Brian Babcock get into wine?
Vineyards mostly, actually, is kind of where I started. So my family had owned some property in Sassoon Valley here for quite a few years, and my dad planted grapes, I think around 88, 89, somewhere in that time frame. And I was about 13 at the time, something like that. I don't know. So I didn't really know anything about anything. And so I went through high school, and just as that was coming on, the grapes were kind of cool. It was like, all right, well, what's going on? So I ended up sort of not having any direction, like, well, I can do this farming thing. So I went to the JC for a couple of years, which was great because it allowed me to kind of stay at home and still work and do that sort of stuff and get all that undergraduate stuff out of the way. And then I went up to Davis, which is it's only about a half hour from here. So I was able to go up there and get my degree in viticulture and enology. Originally, I kind of went just for the viticulture stuff, and then I got talked into doing the winemaking stuff, and I kind of liked it. So I just kind of stuck with it.
All right. And, when you got into drinking wine, because and that's a whole other ballgame, what people think is going on and what really is. But when a lot of people, when they get into drinking wine, there's kind of like that transition period, right? So not everybody, but a lot of people start off typically with a little sweeter wine, or in the college days, it's really the sweet wine, right?
Yeah,
then they transition into a little bit of white, and then kind of graduate into some reds and learn to appreciate the old world stuff and everything. Did you have a transition wine, like, of the drinking aspect?
No, because I was in college and I was in the winemaking program, I was exposed to everything like right off the bat. Like I didn't come from a huge wine background. Like my parents, like in the house they had back then, it was White Zin, and then KJ Chardonnay and that sort of stuff, because that's what when you're new to wine, that's what people drank back then. This is the late 80s, early 90s, and so you got to start somewhere, and so those are kind of what I was sort of exposed to. But when I got into college, it was, when I got old enough to be able to buy alcohol on my own, there was,
legally.
It was
legally.
It was a lot of, it's a lot of beer because it was college, but wines, yeah, you're right. It was Rieslings, Gewürztraminers, nothing fancy. I didn't, have the budget for that. And then when you would go to class and you would get together with other people and they would put on tastings and you have all this, then you got exposed to everything else. So actually in a pretty short period of time, I remember before we even knew kind of how Petite Syrah was going to do in Sassoon Valley or anything like that, I think it was a Bogle Petite Syrah. It was kind of like, it was the price point was right for college, and I thought it was a decent wine, and I kind of got into that for one of my first reds that I would kind of pick up more than buy just one bottle.
Okay.
It was a repeat purchase because I thought it was good. So, yeah. To be honest, I haven't had that wine in, gosh, I don't know how many years now, but I should probably go back and revisit that.
And that would be a kind of interesting experience, because the wine that got me into wine, it like I went berserk when I tasted this wine. I was like, oh my God, this is the best wine ever. Oh, I love it. I love it. And it was a Chardonnay. It was an oaked Chardonnay, right? But it was a Chardonnay, and I loved it. And I was like, oh, I got into the point where my husband, like friends of ours, bought us that wine for our wedding, right?
Okay.
And then when we got married, my husband went to the whole, because we were in Jersey, whole like tri-state area, driving all over the place to buy as much of it as he can so that I could have it, whenever I wanted. And I absolutely loved it. And then, years go by and your palate evolves and your palate changes and everything. And I had that wine and I was like, oh, like I was so excited to have this wine. I was like, yes, oh my God, look, obviously different vintage, but I'm like, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. And I tasted it, I'm like, well, still a solid wine. There's nothing wrong with the wine, but my palate has changed completely. And that's not what I would go to today,
Right. Right.
So it'd be interesting to see when you go back to that, not that there's anything wrong with the wine, but interesting to see how you enjoy it now versus how you enjoyed it then.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So do you have a memorable wine? Like it does, a wine that you tasted it and you're like, wow, this is an amazing wine.
I've been asked that before, and the short answer is no.
Okay.
Do you want the long answer?
Yeah.
All right. So the long answer is it was actually the first wine I ever made.
Okay.
So I was probably 18 or 19 maybe. And we had this block of Merlot. And within that block, there was some rogue Pinot Noir vines, 25, 30, whatever. And they're very different. When you look at it in Merlot in the vineyard, you can tell Pinot Noir is totally different, tiny bunches, clustered, ripens earlier, So I said, well, I'll just go pick those and I'll make wine out of them, for Pinot Noir. And I didn't know anything about wine. And so I made them, in a garbage can, a brute, as best I could do. And there's a local guy down the street who made wine. He was not professionally, just like he was bizarre. You'd walk into this little garage he had, and he had just carboys bubbling away of everything everywhere. It was insane. And he goes, well, this is how you do it. He basically gave me the overview about fermentation and punch downs and all that. I said, okay, I can do that. So I did it, and I thought the wine came out really great. I was like, oh my gosh, I put it in the barrel. I had a little half barrel, little 30-gallon barrel.
Okay.
But I put it in there. I was like, oh, this is amazing. But nobody told me you had to actually like maintain wine over time.
Oh.
So it just kind of went bad. It went south pretty fast. So when I checked it again in 6, 8 months, 9 months, I was like, ooh, what is this sulfur thing we're supposed to do? So yeah, it wasn't great. But like I remember that wine was just amazing. And it's obviously through rose-colored glasses, and it probably wasn't that great, but I was like, this is like, it was like the eye opener, like, this is great. And so that is my aha wine that kind of got me going into that direction of winemaking. And yeah.
That's actually that might be the best memorable wine I've ever heard. Memorable wine story I've ever heard, and quite an educational one. Also, you learned very quickly that you can't just take it, put it in a barrel, and then forget about it.
It's not bourbon. You don't get to slam a bung in there and call it a day.
Right.
In a couple of years. Yeah.
And so that really is an educational thing. So you'll never do that again, right? You never once have you done that again, right?
Nope. So now everything is sulfured and topped up and hopefully clean. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Sassoon Valley. First of all, there's 50 bazillion different ways you people hearing it. So you want to officially say the correct way to say it? It
is Sassoon.
Sassoon, kind of like almost, because the slogan is "See you soon" type thing, right?
See you soon and Sassoon, yeah.
Sassoon.
That's the coined phrase. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Sui Sun, Sui San. I mean, it gets butchered every which way, and I'm not gonna like fault anybody for saying it incorrectly because it's not phonetically spelled, but yes.
I always have the tendency, I think it's my Jersey drawl. I say Sassoon. You know,
that would be fine.
but
Yeah, I would let that one go.
You know,
Yeah.
I just blame it on Jersey. I blame everything on Jersey. But so let's talk about where it is. Where is it located? How, because I'm going to say the majority of people who have been to Napa Sonoma probably have been through Sassoon. So tell us where it is.
So technically, I think we are kind of right between San Francisco and Sacramento, kind of on the I-80 corridor. Now, where you would normally take if you're traveling up 80 or down 80, and you would take Highway 12 to go to Napa or Sonoma, we're kind of right at that exit, and you just drive. Really, if you look at Napa and the county map, there's like this little wedge in the southeast corner of it, and that's kind of looks like it's just kind of cut out of Napa Valley, and that's Sassoon Valley. So we're only our AVA butts right up to the county line. So yeah.
And about how big is the AVA?
Gosh, I should know this, but I think it's about 7,000 acres. No, 3,000. I think there's maybe 3,000 acres planted or 2,500. I think the whole thing is about 6,000, 7,000.
Okay, so about half of it is under vine.
Yes. It seems like actually it probably should be less. I think their website has the Sassoon Valley Grape Growers has some information on there. I should know that. I wasn't prepared for that one.
I'm sorry. It's all right.
That's all right.
It's all right. And
not that much.
Yeah. That was trying what I was getting at. It's kind of a very tiny AVA.
Yeah.
But it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think it was 82. It was right after Napa, I think.
Okay. 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Napa slid in there 1 year before you guys.
Yeah, they do everything first, so that's fine.
And one of the funniest signs I ever saw is in Sassoon Valley, and it's the backside of Napa.
Yeah, that was a vintner up the road. He's got a thing he's trying to do promotion to, and so yeah, he's got that sign out there.
Nice little sense of humor.
Yeah, I think so. Why not? You gotta laugh at ourselves.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you shouldn't laugh at anybody else, and life really is not fun if you're not laughing at yourself. That's
no. I didn't get into this business to be serious. So
right, serious about wine, just not serious about life.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll do that.
You have to have a good time while you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just
what's the
work.
point?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So what would you say is the distinguishing feature or characteristic for Sassoon Valley?
So from like an AVA standpoint, it's because it's really compact. I think it's only 6 or 7 miles long and like 3 miles wide. But the climate's vary like dramatically in that short period. So if you're down in the southern part, it's cold and windy. It's like Pinot Chard country. And then we've got upper valley stuff where you don't really get these breezes that blow through here and cool you off in the afternoon sometimes or in the evening. And those places can stay warm, and so you can put your hotter varieties up there and your cooler varieties down south and kind of anywhere in between, really. So I think in that respect, it's pretty cool that we can grow so many different things in such a small place, or really a small AVA.
And what is the baby of Sassoon Valley? What's
Petite Syrah seems to be our thing. Yeah.
And does anybody still call it the Reef, or is everybody calling it?
No, I think Cayman Sassoon, they call it the Grand Reef. And that's their thing. But I think most other people are just still calling it Petite Syrah.
Petite Syrah. I think when wineries call things by not the more common one, it makes it more confusing for people. And, they're like, oh, what is this? But then on the other hand, somebody may pick up the bottle and go, oh, look at this. What is this? And not know, I have had that variety before. So on your website, Katie is quoted as saying, Brian does it all and does it well. So I had to laugh because I think that it's a very straightforward statement of what winemaking is versus the reality of winemaking versus the
Sure.
dream of
Sure.
winemaking. So what are some things other than winemaking that you do that play a role in allowing you to make wine,
So
I should say?
I do most all of the vineyard stuff. So like today, I was out and we were rolling out drip line for a new vineyard. So that was me in a tractor. I mean, I stood up, you'd see my pants, they're all nasty and dirty. So I changed from here up just for this. But yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty hands-on out in the vineyard. You know, I mean, I have a couple guys who work for me and they do a lot of the manual stuff. But as far as tractors, mechanics, you know, all that, yeah, to bring the fruit in, you know, all those decisions, those are made by me. And then the winery, I don't have anybody else doing anything for me, so I'm all hands on there. I'm really overworked, I think, now that I think about it.
I think so. I think you
Yeah.
need a raise.
Yeah, I'll talk to my boss about that.
But so I think that people, when they hear, oh, you're a winemaker, they're like, oh my gosh, that must be so amazing, right?
Yeah.
You're drinking wine, you know, you get to taste wine all the time. You get to take all your wine home and have wine whenever you want it and things like that. So give us, let's go to when it's getting close to harvest.
Okay.
Let's flash forward a little bit in time and let's go to when it's about to start harvest. What is your first variety that you're going to be harvesting?
Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so let's start with that. You're ready to harvest. Let's go through a typical Brian day as we get close to harvest.
So it's a lot of checking. I mean, we check the sugars, and usually you kind of have an idea week wise, you know, where are we at? Well, next week sometime. Okay. And then, you know, you can always adjust a couple of days since it's the first thing. There's plenty of tank space. There's plenty of, you know, you're not botched up and you don't have a whole bunch of other stuff going on. You basically kind of got through the vineyard through the lull of spring and ripening, and now it's winery time for me. So we do that. So then you're okay, we've got a week. Let's go through. We're going to clean everything up, make sure everything works. We should probably do that sooner than a week. But yeah, that's kind of how we do it. And then we coordinate a lot of the fruit that we grow or that we make our wine from. We actually sell to other wineries.
Oh,
so I'm coordinating with them and trying to figure all that stuff out. But yeah, there's a lot of getting the winery ready and processed and get the gear as the first thing we do. And then whites are pretty straightforward because they just go in tank. There's not really much work we have to do. Like reds is punch downs, pump overs, whatever. But yeah.
And I was going to say, so now fast forward to, I don't know, maybe a month later where those reds are starting to kick in. Now, how does your day change?
It might be 6 weeks for reds. I pick reds late.
Okay.
So yeah, the reds, that comes probably mid to late October.
Okay.
Most of the reds. Brings in Petite in usually about the same time because I usually let them hang out until they're high 20s.
Okay.
Bricks wise. Cabernet I will bring in. I don't do much of Cabernet. We only got a little bit, but I will basically pick that right before it rains.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It'll hang out there, it'll do its thing, and then or if I feel it's ready. But we've only made two vintages of Cabernet, so or three. Sorry, we did 3 last year. So I haven't bottled it yet, so we'll see soon.
Right. And then you have to start playing the chess game of where things go.
Yep. And there's always that. I'm like, well, I can't do this and that, and log jam with tanks, and I can't fill them all because then I can't empty one of them, and that's a problem, right? So yeah, you always got to have one open space.
All right, it's
like one of those puzzles, like one of those puzzles, those like 9x9 squares you have to move around to make the picture.
Yeah,
it's just a lot. It's a lot like that.
Absolutely. So before you started Sassoon Creek, where you actually worked for a very large winery
I did, yeah.
and kind of got your feet wet and kind of realized how you wanted to go about winemaking, everything. How do you compare working for a large production winery versus a smaller winery? Like, how do you compare those two?
So they're different. So I when I left that place, it was big and it was a production winery, and so basically my job was sitting at a desk, writing work orders for the to move wine around or make ads or do pumps or whatever, and then getting them back and making sure everything checked out and nobody messed up. And so it was very it was a lot of moving papers around. Now we'd go out and taste wine and have meetings and make blends and get everything ready, but I didn't have to deal with ordering glass and corks. That was somebody else's job. I was more production winemaking. So but I managed a few different projects within that. So I did a lot of oak alternative and a lot of micro rocks, that sort of stuff, which was a great experience. But it's different. Like I got out of there, I'm like, oh, I started my own business here, and it was, wow, there's a lot to do. And I don't have anybody. I can't just write that work order and have it get done. There's, it's I just do it. So yeah. So it's different. I enjoy this because I enjoy just being hands-on and doing everything. So it works out for me.
Now, since you are doing everything, right? You have the vineyard side of it and the winery side of it.
Mhm.
Do you have a preference of where you prefer to be?
No, it just depends on the time of year. I mean, there's some times a year where I don't want to be in the winery. I just I'm tired of it. And there's sometimes in the vineyard I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it. But like the vineyard's exciting because it's constantly changing and you're just trying to keep up, especially this time of year in the spring.
Yeah.
It's just moving and you're just trying to hold it all together and not let it run away. But and then so it's busy, busy, busy. And then we have this kind of lull maybe in the middle of summer. And then right before harvest, then once harvest comes, then it's busy, busy, busy in the winery. Now the vineyard stuff slows down, you manage that, and because the vines, once we pick them, they're kind of done for the year. There's a few maintenance things, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing's like on a time crunch.
Right.
But with the winery, everything's on a time crunch. So it's just it's a lot of hurry up and just wait for the chaos to ensue.
Hurry up and wait, right?
Hurry up and wait.
Well, I am sitting here and I've got this glass of wine here and I want to start drinking. So we're going to talk about the wine so I can start drinking.
Sure, no, I'm with you. I got
all right. So what I have in my glass is your 2018 Sassoon Creek Petite Syrah. And so can you tell us a little bit about this wine itself? Like, what was the vintage like? Was it an easy vintage? Was it a vintage that you're screaming at it, anything insane about the vintage, good or bad? And then we'll talk about the wine itself.
No, so gosh, I'm trying to think. I think 18 was a fairly smooth year. We do the one thing I'm learning about the wine. So we started making wines in 2016. So this is really the third vintage. Okay. Now the vines were very young. So, they were planted in 2014. So the first crop we got 2016 was like the first crop and it was small. And I will say that typically young vines make better fruit, better wine. I know people like, you got to get some age on them and old vines. And I'm like, nah, I mean, to a point, yes, but for the most part, I find the opposite, to be honest.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of the wines that I've made that were like young and they're healthy vines, they turn out pretty nice. The wines come out, but like wines that I've tried to make from older vines, now maybe those vines had issues, they were virus or some other root. They just don't seem to have the oomph but that's me, right? So, and that's me, and that's here. So I'm not going to put that as a general. That's the way the rest of the world is, and or even anybody else besides what I'm trying to do.
Right.
But that's been my experience. So, So it's good. And now, fortunately, Petite Syrah doesn't have a really long lifespan in the vineyard, so it works out.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
they don't. Yeah, you're not going to find a lot of old vine Petite, I don't think.
So are they that susceptible
To you type
to
it typically, and
the,
then at some point you've got so much in the vineyard, it just becomes economically not feasible to try and maintain it. I mean, you can get in there and cut it out and rehab it, but at some point it's just easier to start over from scratch. So we're looking at typically on a Petite vineyard, I mean, 20 years average, but after about 20, they're looking pretty. That you have to start making that decision. Now that was previous 20 years where people didn't really understand a lot about disease and you type it. I mean, we understood, but we didn't have a lot of tools to treat it. Now I think people do. So maybe we'll see as we move forward, knowing what we know now, how maybe we can get a longer lifespan out of it.
because wasn't it so this is not a natural crossing. Petite Syrah is not a natural crossing, right? It was created in a lab.
Well, I don't think so. I don't know.
Petite Syrah is I thought that Petite Syrah was created by the scientist Darif to help with powdery
mildew.
Yeah.
He may very, I should know that. I don't. But yeah, it does. It's not immune to powdery mildew, but it does have one of the lower tolerances. Now, that being said, the trade-off is you walk into that vineyard and you just say the word rain and the vines just start rotting. So
really, okay.
Oh yeah, late season Petite Syrah has always been tricky because you get any rain late season and those bunches are so tight and the skin is so thin, they just start melting.
Wow.
Just disintegrating. So yeah, if you've got rain imminent, it's just better to pull the trigger.
Okay, because there's Gary Eberly. I don't know if you're familiar with him, because he's passed out. Yeah. He was telling a story of how winemakers go running to, like the hills. Oh no, it's gonna rain, and then they want to pick, they pick before it rains. And he always says, I'll just sit on my patio and let it rain, and because Paso, it's going to be dry for the next week after that, and so yeah, water does affect the grapes at that time, and you just kind of let nature come back to it, and all good. But
is that talking specifically about Petite, or is that?
No, it wasn't Petite.
Oh yeah, Cabernet. No. Yeah, a little rain is a big deal.
Yeah. But that's what I was thinking is, okay, so you're talking specifically Petite Syrah, and that those clusters, the rain gets in there and then it kind of just.
Oh yeah, we've seen it. We've been growing Petite here for 20 something years, since the late 90s. I think we planted some, and so we've seen the vineyard like after it's rained and you go to pick it and it's like guys are picking it and they're just disintegrating in your hand. And it's bad. It's bad. It's ugly.
Is that at any point during the, like let's backtrack to pre-veraison.
Oh, pre-veraison.
Is it okay? So it's really just towards the end of, as it's getting close to ripeness.
It's when it's got, it's ripe, it's ready to pick. It's, it doesn't have, that's usually when it falls apart. But California, we don't get rain in, from really May to October, if we're lucky. I mean, there may be an occasional weird shower, but that's a tenth of an inch probably is, there's enough canopy there, it should shrug off most of the water. And if you did, you might get a few bunches that might rot. But if you start talking about any significant rain where it's just going to be soaked,
you're pulling it in. You're pulling it in.
These are bad.
Yeah. Wow. All right. See, each variety is got its own little quirks, right?
They do.
Just like
they do.
Right?
And that's what's fun about being in the vineyard. You got these things, and we used to grow some Viognier, and it was just it would push out like all these like shoots, and it was a pain to shoot thin because it wanted to grow, and you're like, all right. But it wouldn't set a big crop. I don't know why, but Chardonnay is pretty straightforward. That's kind of actually, from a growing standpoint, not that bad, other than being a little more susceptible to mildew. That one's pretty easy, straightforward. Yeah, Cabernet is almost bulletproof. So it just needs to hang out there and get ripe.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to now. I can taste this, right? So we
All
have
right.
Petite Syrah 2018 Sassoon Creek in the glass. First of all, I was going to say blindfolded, but not blindfolded, but blind tasting.
Mm-hmm.
I would right off the bat, the color is so dark. As you swirl, the purple hue just stays and lingers on the glass. And there is, I tell people when I'm teaching them how to taste wine, I'm like, okay, put your two fingers behind the wine. If you can see it, it's pale. If you sort of see it, it's medium. If you can't, it's deep. Well, this is deep.
Yeah.
This is deep. There.
Yeah. So it's one of those. One of the things that we do when we actually make the Petite Syrah in the tank, and it's fermented, and then we kind of let it sit there for or we'll rack it into a tank, and it sits there, especially when it's young, and things are kind of unstable. Like it will actually, like you walk in, you not walk in, but you go inside of the stainless tank, and it is purple, and it takes a lot of work to get that out.
I know.
Yeah, it's like it takes some scrubbing and some pH adjustment,
right,
to raise the pH to clean it. But yeah, like mostly everything else is fine, but that one is just like, wow, there's really a purple hue in this tank.
You should do like cave hieroglyphics.
That would be funny.
Do cave hieroglyphics in there, so that like using the pH stuff to kind of get rid of part of it and do drawings. That there, I gave you a viral reel right there. I have put that on Instagram.
That's going on social media.
There you go. Sure. All right.
Yeah, well. I'm gonna write your name in hieroglyphics. There you go.
That would be so.
Lori,
oh my God.
Lori was here.
I would love that. Oh my God, that would be so cool. So cool. I would take a photo of that. I'd put it on a wall. That would be so cool.
The problem is when you use the cleaner, it's gonna like drip down. So
drip down.
Look like it was smeared in blood. Something.
That's why it's hieroglyphics. You just say what it is, right? Awesome. Well, this is dark fruit in here. Right. Yeah. This is blackberry. I get a bit of earth and definitely a hint of like eucalyptus or menthol on the nose.
Yeah, thing in there. Yeah, I would call it herbal. Yeah, I mean, to me, Petite isn't one of those ones it's not this huge aromatic, uplifting variety. It's just kind of subdued, but it's a lot of dark fruit. Choosing depending on kind of which oak you want to go with, then you start getting into like some of the dark chocolate and bringing out those, the roasty notes. So it's a lot of fun, but it seems to do well.
It's beautiful. It's got a nice spice on the palate. It has a nice spice to it. And the alcohol is
it's like 16. 15, I think the label says 15.5.
Oh, is that 15.5? I keep saying I do need glasses.
Yeah, I think it was right around 16 when we bottled it. Don't tell TTB.
It's legal. You got that 1%.
15.9. We're good.
15.9. Yeah. It is it doesn't taste high alcohol.
It's pretty balanced.
Yeah, it's very balanced. The acidity that's in it is cutting through that alcohol. There's no burn. It sits on your palate very, very nicely. And the tannins are actually very structured. So this baby can sit and for a while without any problem. But the tannins are not gripping your teeth at that, they're not.
Right. And I think that's might be one of Sassoon Valley's things is, and I don't know why, but like the Petite tends to be approachable early. Like you have Petites and maybe from somewhere like a hillside, and it's just really aggressive, and it's really aggressive for a long time. But here they tend to be the tannins are there. They're huge. But I think for whatever reason, and I don't want to get too scientific, but they might link up and polymerize earlier for some reason. And so then they become longer and softer without requiring a lot of bottle age. So I think that's a lot of fun for people. You know, people are like, well, should I lay this down? You can, but drink it now. It's totally
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, it can lie down and it's going to be fine. If they put it and they want to take it out a year, 2 years, 3 years later, it's still going to be fine. But it is very approachable now. The tannins are really kind of uh, they're an oxymoron because they're burly, but they're also delicate as
Right.
as it finishes. So it really is kind of an oxymoron. Now, can you take us through your winemaking process for this one? Like what barrel process did you use and things like that, barrel program?
So the barrels, everything's aged in barrel. I used predominantly neutral barrels, but because where I worked at before, I was in charge of their oak alternative program. I use alternatives in the barrel. So, and what that does is, it gives me, I used to experiment with the oak and micro ox, and we were trying to make wines and you could get close, but just something about a barrel, just whatever that oxygen rate transfer, topping it, opening it, I mean, just whatever that is. It was tough to mimic. The wood aromas you can get, but then there was like a texture, it just kind of wasn't there. So I'm kind of going the best of both worlds here, where I'm using the barrel, but I'm using the alternatives I know where I can get exactly the profiles that I like. So that's me. And that's,
well, you know what, you have to make wine that you like. It has to be to your palate, right? And because no matter what wine you make, there's going to be people who love it and there's going to be people who it's just not for them, right? And so you can't there's wineries out there who shall remain nameless that all they do is just make wine so to a palate of a specific person who gives a score, right? So making wine to a score, and yeah, it's great to get those scores, but if you're making a wine to me, making wine and drinking wine is it's like a life force. It should be part of you. It should be, if you're the winemaker, you're a little part of your soul, in not a bad way, like Harry Potter and the Horcrux, right? A part of your soul is going into each of these vintages, each of these bottles, that you've got to do what you like, what you enjoy drinking, not some person who's doing the thing. So whatever you're doing is to your style. And that's why every wine, I don't know what winery is directly next to you, as close as you can get, but they could be making, or well, let's go this way. You do sell off some of your fruit, correct? Okay. So you sell off some Petite Syrah to another winery. If you did bottle to bottle, is it the same wine?
No, we actually did this. We sell another, we do another variety that we grow. We grow Charbonneau.
I wanted to ask about that.
And so we actually make a rosé out of it. Now, I don't think Charbonneau is necessarily a bad grape, but I've tried to make red wine from it, and it doesn't fit the style of wines that I particularly like. You're saying, make wines I like. I don't think it was a bad wine. It just wasn't, it didn't fit for what I was trying to do. So, we made a blend with it and kind of made it work. But we opened up some bottles, because I'll sell to this small block, but I'll sell to a bunch of different wineries. And so they all, they're all excited. So they'll give wine back to me as well. And so I'm able to kind of compare it and just see the different styles, like 4 or 5 different wineries. They're pretty different. I mean, this is a 2-acre block. It's not big. It's not like it's like, oh, this is from the other end of the valley. Or, I mean, it is like literally like it's small. And it's pretty amazing how different some of these wines are, whether or not it's because it was picked 2 weeks later or just the winemaking style itself. But it's pretty fun to see the different wine that can come from literally the same piece of dirt. So,
yeah, and I would tend to think that is a big difference. A wine that is picked this day and a wine that's picked 2 weeks later, that's going to have a different profile just from the get-go. And
Right.
then, so it's interesting. Yeah, that would be a fun experiment to partake in. I
Yeah,
think that'd be cool.
it was interesting. Yeah.
So do the hieroglyphics in the tank and then
Got it.
have the bottles for me, and I will come up and we'll do that.
There you go.
I'll sit in the tank
Deal.
and do it.
There you go.
So in this, are you when you're harvesting, you're taking it in the morning, are you cold soaking? What's the regimen?
Nope. You know
Doesn't
what?
need it.
I'm pretty good at just getting in and getting business done.
Okay.
So when this stuff comes in, so actually, depending on what we do and how much we're bringing in, I'll either we have a machine to harvest, so we can either
Okay.
machine harvest it, or we can hand pick it if it's a small amount. Whites, yeah, probably hand pick. The rosé is definitely a hand pick.
Okay.
Charbonneau. But the reds will actually machine pick, and I actually prefer that because it's a lot easier to process once I bring it in. And I literally go out and I pick it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's in the winery at 7, and I'm done by 10. So it's like it's a no-brainer. Whereas if I have to go out and hand pick what we have to do, I don't, it's not that much, so I don't have a huge crew. So they're working till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, or maybe even noon to get it done, and then I've got to process, and I've got more work to do. So I love the machine actually for picking reds.
It's I think that's kind of along the lines of like screw caps, right? Years and years ago, screw caps in America were no screw caps, right? And that's kind of how mechanical harvesting was. It's got to be hand picked. It's too, it's too rough. It's too this. It's that. Whatever, And as people kind of learn how things actually work versus just, oh my God, it's change. It can't be good. They, they realize that there's a lot of benefits to it. So
there are, and you know what I think changed a lot of people's minds? Labor.
Oh gosh.
So listen, I can machine pick it, or we can't pick it because I can't get anybody to pick it. Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and machine pick it. And then once they try it, once they're kind of put in that position, they're like, it wasn't that bad. Now, granted, there are some wineries who are going to hand sort fruit, all that sort of stuff, and that's fine. And that's then they're going to have to hand pick it. There's no point in trying to sort machine pick fruit. It's kind of messy. But there are machines out there that actually have
the digital
sorting tables on them.
Yeah,
they have little sorting tables, and they dump off. And we were in a vineyard, and the guy came over and goes, "Oh, check this out! It's going to sort out like probably 10% of the stuff that I'm like, but we're a vineyard, and so we make money by how much we put in the bin. You're not really selling me on this machine.
Right.
I'll let the winery do that, but they need to pay me for it first.
Right. So, absolutely. See, for every good, there's a bad. There, for every action, there's a reaction. So let a little bit more about the Petite Syrah. Let's talk about you're a true believer of that winemaking is a combination of art and science, and we hear it a lot. It's nothing gets you. It's not like your revelation, right? But every winemaker's version of art and science is different. So how do you see yourself blending art and science in your winery?
So the science part, I'm like, having gone to school and having a degree in this, it's like that's what they teach you is science. Mm-hmm. And that's great. It gives you numbers, but that's not how you make wine. People are like, so you went to school to learn how to make wine? I said, no, I went to school to learn how to like run numbers. Exactly. I said I went to work to learn how to make wine, because you can't teach that. I mean, you can't learn that. You can teach it, but you can't you can't read that in a book. Mm-hmm. So like, there's no formula that says, listen, Petite Syrah comes in at X brix and you process with this yeast and voila, it's perfect every time. It doesn't work that way. Every year is different. Every site's different. And so you have to kind of understand. You can look at the numbers and just help guide you and, where to go. And you can use technology, which is great. But at the end of the day, you've got to know what picture you want to paint and have that vision and how you're going to get there. And, that's what I think a lot of times I hear people in winemaking, and they go, well, that's what this year was. That was the vintage. That's the wine. And I'm like, it's not that good. And you say, where I look at it, I'm like, well, where do I want this wine to go? I kind of have an idea, and then you ferment it and you go, okay, well now how do we want to oak this up? How much time? All those things. That's where it sort of becomes the art of the science is basically getting it through the fermentation, hopefully cleanly and quickly, right? And no issues. I think this actually piece Syrah, I think they stuck. They always stick. All my wines stick, all the reds.
Really?
Yeah, I tried. That last year was the first year they didn't, but they all come out with, they're high alcohol, so I'm always pushing the limits.
Okay.
I think the first year I did a Zinfandel, it came in high bricks, and Zinfandel is always tricky because it's kind of like right before you ferment, like you test the sugar and it's like, okay, and then you start fermenting and it's like, I'm gonna let a little more sugar go. And so you end up with high alcohols, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna adjust my sugar. Okay, but he's gonna hang on. It's a tricky little grape. So I learned to run about in the middle of fermentation, run potential alcohols so I can see where the alcohol and the sugar is and see what's released. But again, science. But the first time I did Zen, it came in and I think it rocked right through fermentation in like 5 days. I was like, whoa, this is just a little macro bin or 2 or something like that. And it came out like 17.5 alcohol. Like it just ran right through. And I was like, wow, that's cool. But it was really hot. Like it was too hot. Like it was definitely.
How did the yeast even survive that?
Alcohol. Right?
17.5?
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't think I was using some extreme, yeast at the time. I was like, oh, I'll do something, they, maybe it gets up to 16.5, 17, but like it just boom right through. Usually when you have those alcohols, it's like it's a push to get it to that 75. You're good up to about 14, and then like it takes 2 weeks to get that last little bit of sugar to done. So, but last year I talked with a buddy of mine up the road. He kind of steered me in the right direction as far as kind of some yeast to use, and he had real good luck, and so I tried that, and it actually worked out pretty good. So I may be onto something.
There you go.
Give myself a lot of headache. There's nothing worse than trying to restart a fermentation at like 2 bricks, and you're like, and especially because this is like the last stuff I pick. I've got no other juice to come in to help get it started.
Right. Yeah. See, and that goes back to the other thing of how your first pick is relatively easy because everything is open and you do it, and it like you said, white is pretty straightforward. When you get down to those last picks,
that's where it gets tricky.
You got to zig and zag a bit.
It really is. It's like we're talking upward 20s, low 30s sometimes when we bring the stuff in, and it's late October. So by the time this fermentation is done in 2 weeks, it's mid-November. Wow. There's nothing else out there. I can't just bring in another starter grape. I mean, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I've got to really work with it. But fortunately, I've been pretty good. I mean, it's been a lot of work, but yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So you actually deal with 7 varieties, correct? You farm 7 varieties?
Yes.
And do you use them? You said the Trebano you use as a rosé.
Yes.
But tell me about the Verdeo, because I love Verdeo.
Right. So good. So years ago, we had planted. My dad had planted a bunch of Verdeo because somebody he had a bunch of Merlot, and then this movie called Sideways came out, and we couldn't sell Merlot. So he grafted over to Verdeo because he needed to find something to do because the vines were still relatively young. So I think he talked to somebody in Davis, and they said, hey, you need to try these, Spanish or Portuguese varieties or whatever. Okay. So he planted some Verdeo, like 6 or 7 acres, quite a bit. And the wine was really nice. Like we would actually, because nobody wants to buy truckloads of Verdeo, we ended up kind of custom crushing it and putting it on the bulk market. And so we knew what the wine was, and the wine was super pretty. Like it was just really nice. But again, nobody wanted to buy it. So it was always this tricky thing we had. And eventually it would sell, but not well. So that vineyard went away, and we pushed that one out, and it sat fell for a while. And then we were kind of thinking, well, we've got this other little couple of blocks. What do you want to do for the winery? I said, let me do like 2 acres of Verdeo. And so we did, and I did, having never made it other than somebody else making it, bulk wine stuff. I wasn't sure, and we always had people asking us for a sweet wine. There's always there's always a need for some sort of sweet wine in a tasting room. So we said, well, you know what? Basically, we only had Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Verdella were in the rosé, and those are our white wines. So I was like, well, we'll just do the Verdella because that aromatically is going to be probably the best fit. Like nobody knows what Verdella is to start with. So when you come in, like, I don't want a sweet Chardonnay, okay, or here's a sweet Sauvignon Blanc, and everybody's gonna be like, that's weird. So it fit, and it's really popular actually. Like I certainly should make more, but I don't.
What's the RS on it?
So the first year, I don't know because everybody's different. Everybody's idea of sweet is like perception of sweet is different. So I think the first year we left it like 2.5 or 3%
okay.
RS.
So it's
well, that was the first year, and I said, okay, that was too much. So then we backed it off to like 2%. I think and that was the second year, and so this year I think we're down at like 1.5.
Okay.
And I think that's probably pretty good because what it does is it's not so sweet that it offends the people who don't want a sweet wine.
Right.
But
I was gonna say one is really not like a lot of white wines that people say are dry have like 1% RS in it, you know.
Yeah, this is like 1.5, maybe 1.75. It's tricky. You know, when you so I arrest the fermentation. I don't like sweeten back up. So it's tricky because you have to stop it at the right exact moment, and it's never like
it's
on a
it's
Tuesday
not
afternoon. It's like on a Saturday night at 3 a.m. Like it's never easy. And then you're over there and you're trying to like chill the tank down, add a bunch of sulfur, and hope for the best, and hope it doesn't overshoot. And so I don't know. I just I got my marks, and we're gonna go with it. But yeah, it actually it's a nice wine. So it's pretty.
You have a sleeping bag in the winery for those nights?
No, I don't live that far away, so it works out. I can get up and drive there in 2 minutes.
All right. So at Sassoon Creek, what is your case production?
You know, I think it's tough
it varies,
because I'm on different vintages, and so like I've got reds in barrel, and I think I'm planning on expanding and growing. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but that's my plan. So I think right now we're sitting at somewhere around 1,000 cases.
Okay.
Like give or take, like on so if you walked in and said, how much did you bottle this year? I'm about 1,000 cases.
Okay. And so you actually like started to almost ask my next question. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see Sassoon Creek like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? Do you have like some wineries have like a magic number? Like, I don't want to be more than this, or I don't want to be less than this. Like, do you have a number where you're going to be, this is kind of where my goal is, and this is where I would like to get to?
I don't have like a firm goal. If I could sell, my goal is to really kind of be direct, like DTC.
Okay.
Direct to consumer. I don't mind selling to like little places around locally. But when you start getting out of state and you have to get into the 3-tier system, it becomes I haven't talked to anybody who really enjoys doing that. So I'm that's not my plan. At least not. I mean, in California, yes, maybe we can expand out that way. But if I was at like 3,000 to 4,000, I think that's a reasonable number. I mean, it could go more. We'll see what happens. I mean, I've worked for big places, so scaling up doesn't scare me. Sales, trying to sell wines, wine making is easy. Selling wine's different.
Absolutely.
So I used to be like, oh, salesman. Now I'm like, oh, salesman. Hey, good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is. It's very difficult to go place to place to place and kind of say your story, but not sound like you're recording of the story, and no, maybe this wine might be better for this population versus this wine and things like that. Right. It's much more fun making the wine than trying to sell it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, what about DTC shipping? Where can you ship to? Do you have
I think there's a few states that we're not allowed to, like they're not non-reciprocal, but other than that, I think we're good.
Okay. Are you using
Um,
something like Vino Shipper, or do you actually have all your own licenses?
oh no, it's like Vino Shipper. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They're a wonderful thing. Get you to 42 states, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Except for
Yeah.
those insane
And we,
states that
and we
want to cut
really
off an arm.
we don't ship out of state that often. Like there's a few people here and there, but it's most of our business is local.
Okay.
And a few people have sent, wine to friends, and then their friends like, ooh, I like it, and that sort of thing. So
And
yeah.
what about your tasting room? Is it open every day, certain
No,
days?
no, it is right now it's open Saturdays and Sundays. So we
Okay.
just do like 12 to 5. Our tasting room is also kind of like our production facility. So during harvest, it's a lot of work for me because on Friday night I got to clean everything up and make it look kind of spotless and presentable. And if anybody's ever seen like a winery, an actual production winery, it can be it's during harvest, it's like a purple mess. The floors are stained, everything is crazy. So it's a lot of work to do that.
Well,
I think
then here's I can tell you how to run your business with all of these things. So
sure.
don't clean up, right?
Uh,
Have a Friday party of what it's like to be at a winery during harvest, and let your customers come in and see what it looks like and clean for you as an experience.
the experience, right? There you go. They can write hieroglyphics on the inside of the tank.
Exactly. Or people do the painting,
Uh-huh.
right? With the must and stuff, right? There
Right.
you go. Have a
There you go.
paint and clean party, and
There's a bunch of leaves for you to
there you
smear, and there you
yeah,
go. Ooh,
yeah, right. What's his name? Castaway, right? Instead of
oh
having the
yeah,
blood, right? The hand on,
right.
there you go. Got to come up with unique ideas, right? It's all
Right.
about an experience.
It is. Yeah, so that's like it's there. I mean, I think our next step for us is probably come up with a tasting room somewhere else that's a little more uh friendly. I mean, everybody loves our place. It's great. Like it's like a big patio on the crush pad, and like it's kind of
See?
shaded, and we've got all the tanks, and it's pretty cool. But it is not large, and it does get dirty. So I think for me, I'd love to have a different spot, like a dedicated wine tasting area. So I can just be in like production mode and just go with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But people do like tasting in the actual
Oh
areas.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Well, when you
all
go to like
kidding
these,
aside about the painting and all of that stuff, they do
oh,
like
it is. Oh
seeing
yeah.
where it is.
Yeah. I got no secrets. Yeah. Everything's just kind of out. But it's like when you go to like a tap room or a brewery, and they've got the
Yeah,
tanks behind the little glass, and
right,
that's pretty cool. Like I dig it because that's what I'm into. But
right.
um, yeah, I think everybody kind of has that. And like, oh, I didn't know what this is. We get a lot of questions on, what a tri clamp is. They don't know that. So I'm like, what is this? Maybe some
Right.
old kinky thing, but yeah.
Yeah. And now, you brought up brew room, so I'm going to ask, because you talked about beer, I think twice already. So there is a saying that it takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of good
A lot of
beer to make
beer,
great wine, right? So
a
what
lot of
is
beer to make
your
wine.
go-to beer
Oh,
or style or
style. Yeah, I would probably go with like just a regular lager.
oh,
I'm not really a big IPA guy.
okay.
I don't like that bitter sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, honestly, my wife gets mad at me because she'll be like, I'll come home and I'll have like a Bud Light or Coors Light or something. I'm just like a
Oh,
6-pack. And she's like, you're old enough, you should drink better than beer. I'm like, you know what? When it's hot and I'm like gotta mow the lawn, and I just like I just want
you're
to
just
just
craving water is what you're craving.
water, but like I want the I want the have a beer. And so like I'll just
Right.
boom, and like no guilt, just
Yeah.
but yeah, when it's 95 degrees outside, I don't want to sit there and be like, this is really tasty. Oh, it's heavy. Oh, no, I just want a little buzz and be done. So
There you go. All right. I am a hazy IPA gal. I
yeah, okay, those are the
I love
hazies aren't too
hazies.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
go insane with my hazies. Do you
yeah,
have that? Do you have the Untapped app? It's like,
No.
it's like Facebook for beer drinkers.
Oh, okay.
So you check in your beers, but you can socialize with other people who drink the same beer or whatever.
Oh, cool.
And you get badges for, they need to reward. I am definitely one of those people who, if you reward me with something, I will do more of it. So like you get badges. So like, photogenic, if you take a picture, right? I think I'm on like photogenic level 150, or haze for days, I'm like 80 and things like that. So check out the app.
Nice.
I think it's a
All
great
right.
app. But
All right.
yeah, see, well, then
Agree.
we can be untapped friends and I can know what type of beer you like.
There you go.
So, all right. So again, your tasting room is open on Saturdays and Sundays after you finish cleaning it. And
Right.
what about social media? Are you guys on it? What is
Yeah.
your
So
main?
I mean, Katie, my wife, actually handles all of that stuff because I am pretty inept when it comes to social media. So she's got Instagram, I think Facebook, she does all that stuff. So you can find us there. The websites, she updates that occasionally. So yeah, like the website, actually, she spent a lot of time going through that and redoing it. So now you can actually order online and shipping, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But yeah, she's big on social media. I'm not. So if there's pictures of me on there, it's not something I took. It's yeah, I get a lot of, what are you doing today? I'm like, nothing. I gotta take pictures.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you're doing something. You're just saying nothing. So.
Yeah.
So if there is one thing, I'm going to put you on the spot. If there's one thing that you want people to know about Sassoon Creek Valley, Sassoon Creek, I'm combining the AVA in you.
Sassoon Creek Valley, sure.
Sassoon Creek wines, what would be the one takeaway you want them to know?
I don't know. I do this because it's what I enjoy. And so like that's why I do it. I mean, there's I'm making money, but like it's not like I'm making a killing on this. This is just what I want to do. And so this is what it is. So all the wines that we make, I think we make 8 different wines. There's 7 varieties, and I think there's 1 red blend. They're all really unique. I mean, they're all different. So it's not like I have, 4 Cabernets, but just different styles. Like they're all very different wines. And I think hopefully if you come into the winery, you'll find at least one, hopefully, more than likely, probably more than that you actually like. The comment we get a lot is actually like, I go to wineries and sometimes like there's always a couple that I don't like, but I like all of these.
That's a great compliment.
Like, yeah, but they're all different. So yeah, it's cool. It's a lot of fun.
And are you by appointment only?
No, we're right now.
Okay.
We're just swing on by. I mean, if you have a big group, yeah, I definitely call us because like I said, we don't have a lot of space. But for the most part, no, swing on by.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Allure of the Poor. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for sending me this 2018 Sassoon Creek Petite Syrah. And I had your Zinfandel the other night that I did post on social media. It was delicious. We sadly drank it too fast for the meal. Like I have the the first glass is usually while you're cooking.
Right.
There just might have been a few more than the first glass while we were cooking. So it was very good. We enjoyed it a lot. So thank you.
You're welcome.
But thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time and being tenacious to keep coming back and scheduling. And we were supposed to do it yesterday. So thank you again for rescheduling on my behalf for today. And I just want to say thank you. And I saved a little bit. I held myself back so I can save a little bit. So I can raise a glass to you, Brian, say Slancha and Lori. Enjoy.
All right.